I have tried to film this video what feels like 100 times, so I'm going to attempt to just sit down and gut it all out all at once and tell you the story of why I'm leaving New York. And you know, this is not clickbait, this is actually happening. I actually only have 2 days left. I just said my goodbyes to a lot of my friends. I'm a little bit in my feels right now. It's about midnight and I'm in Brooklyn Bridge Park, which, by the way, if you haven't been keeping up, I moved to New York. I moved here about 5 months ago on February 29th, which I love because that's leap day, and that's the day I took the leap and moved to New York, which is so corny. I'm so sorry. Oh my god, the room is so tiny, but it's mine and I love it. I guess my hope with this video is not only to document my time here and how I'm feeling and where I'm at in this stage of life, but also if you out there watching this might also be struggling with where you belong in life, figure out your purpose and what you want to do, then maybe my story can help you achieve some clarity of your own. And not to say that I really have all the answers and all the clarity, because I'm still figuring it out and I'm still as scared and confused as ever. But one thing I know for sure, I am leaving New York in 2 days, and it came a lot sooner than I had expected. Actually, when I first moved here, I thought like originally maybe I would live here for 1 to 2 years, but I loved it so much when I got here. It felt so much like home that I thought that I could see myself living here for like 5+ years. And actually, I'm not even gonna lie, I could actually see myself settling down here long term. So to be clear, I'm not leaving New York because I don't like it or I couldn't hack it. Quite the opposite. Actually, I've never felt more at home in my entire life. As soon as I landed here, I instantly felt an ease. Like my entire body just like breathed a sigh of relief. It felt like everything in my life was waiting to happen until I was in the right location. And I had spent years wasting my time in a place that just wasn't right for me. And I'd finally found my spot. I was totally expecting a really difficult transition moving to New York because I know it is not easy to live here. So I was very prepared for that. But I'm gonna be so real. I got really, really lucky moving here. Like the perfect apartment just fell into my lap. My first week here, I started dating someone, fell in love, and got my heart broken, did the whole thing. I met some of my closest friends on my 3rd day, or actually within my first 2 weeks. And these are friends that I am guaranteed going to be in my life for the long run, like forever. I found my people. I found my community. Honestly, the amount of times I've serendipitously met someone that I'm positive was meant to be in my life has happened here so many times that I didn't even think it was possible. I started a successful side business and I got a job teaching yoga. I walked hundreds and hundreds of miles and I curated my body art collection. Everything happened so quickly, and that's the thing about New York. Everything moves so fast here. Like I actually felt like I lived entire years worth of life within my first 3 months. And I love that. I'm a very fast-paced person and I like to experience as many things as possible, so that's why I really, really like the fast pace here. I know it's not for everybody. There's just something in the air here. It's undeniable. There's just energy that just, it makes you feel so alive. And quite honestly, I actually couldn't imagine living anywhere else in the country besides New York. And my astrocartography confirms this. If you look up your birth chart and see where your lines fall, I have a line going right by New York and it says this. I'll paste it in. And I can say that that was 100% true. You guys should look into it if you're interested. When you first move here, a lot of people are going to ask you, oh, did you move here for work? And I always like to say, like, no, I moved here for the opposite. I moved here for life. I wanted a new adventure. I wanted a fresh start. I wanted to meet more like-minded people, more creative friends. I wanted to be inspired, explore my personal style, and just like grow as a person. And I will say New York did all of that for me and more. Couldn't be more grateful for my time here. And I know that a lot of people do not have as great of an experience in New York, especially when you first get here, than I did. So I feel incredibly, incredibly lucky. So I know you're probably wondering why I'm deciding to leave after only 5 short months. And I will say the decision did not come easy. A lot of things went into it and I felt super, super conflicted about this and lost for a really long time. But it's happening. I'm currently in the midst of wrapping a lot of things up, saying all my goodbyes. I cried a lot today. I cried a lot. There's like a crazy amount of roly-polies around me, by the way, and I'm like sitting on top of my backpack right now to protect my ass, but like they're everywhere. Oh, it's on my notebook. Okay, sorry. Let's get into it. So like I said, making this decision was absolutely not easy, but to put it simply, I got a lot of signs from the universe. Gosh, where do I begin? Okay, so there were 3 main signs that I got from the universe for why I should leave New York. And the first one is the people, the second one is my job, and the third one was my apartment. And at the end, of course, I will share where I'm headed to next. But first, real quick, let's talk about some pros and cons of living in New York. After my 5 months of experience here, I know that's not the most, and I'm not going to talk about the basic things that everyone talks about. I'm going to share some things that I feel like most people don't mention very often. So just in case you're also thinking about moving to New York. So here are some of the reasons why you should or shouldn't. So here we go. I feel like if my parents watch this video, they're going to be like, oh my god, New York is not a good place to live. You need to leave. But all right, trust me, I'm a tough cookie. These things, you just got to move on, brush it off. I will say, I honestly think that these things are worth the positive things of living in New York. So some of the cons. Number one, I have noticeably been starting to lose some of my hearing. Like, I know I've only been here for 5 months, but constantly being all around so much noise and sirens, it's just very, very loud here. Like, the max volume on my headphones don't be sounding the same anymore. There's also a ton of secondhand smoke. Like, it's just, there's always like gross fumes in the air, lots of bad smells, and I just feel like that has definitely taken a little bit of a toll on my health. There's a ton of harassment in the streets, actually an appalling amount. The catcalling is so bad. I have been harassed in the streets like multiple times, like sexually harassed, racially harassed, or just straight up like a man just ran at me and grabbed me. It does piss me off. It like does ruin my day for a little bit. But like, unfortunately, I guess that's part of the cost of living in New York. And also because it's a walkable city, you just spend more time on the streets. I mean, in another city, I would just be like in my car. You do gotta watch your back here. You gotta be a little careful. Also, depending on the circles that you run in, I did have a fear before moving here that moving to New York would make me become more materialistic and more fake. Not more fake, but more shallow. New York is definitely a very, very materialistic city. It's easy to get caught up in the rat race, especially if you're in corporate America. And as you rise up the ranks, you notice that people love to just talk about like their airline status and like the fancy hotels and their bracelet stacks and like the nice clothes that they wear. I don't know. I've never been interested in that world. Depending on the people that you end up surrounding yourself with, that could be a concern if that's something that matters to you. Then there's the burnout. Everyone works here super, super hard. Everyone is so, so busy. When I burnt out, it was mostly socially, and I also burnt out physically. I was literally in physical therapy because I sprained my foot from walking too much. Of course, there's the obvious ones, like it's really dirty, it's really crowded, very chaotic, lots of rats and trash. It's overstimulating, and also it's really, really expensive. Everyone knows all about that stuff. But I guess the last thing is that the city is very transient. So people are always coming and going. I guess that includes me now. And obviously, since I've only been here for 5 months, like, I can't say that I've experienced this, but it is something that I foresee that it could be harder to build a community here because this is not the type of city that a lot of people like to settle down in, mostly because it's so expensive. So I already know for a fact that most of my friends plan on leaving New York eventually, some within the next 2 years, and that's just scary to think about. Plus, if you're dating someone and you want to stay but they want to go, or you met here but then you both see yourselves settling down in different cities, then that's also going to be a problem too. The city is what you make of it, and I will say you definitely will have a honeymoon phase here. I think mine is starting to come to an end. I definitely recommend taking advantage of that, like while you're being super outgoing and saying yes to everything, just very excited. Take advantage of that because all the effort that you put in during those months will come back in returns. But also try and take care of yourself, take care of your body, get some rest. The first is that the snowball effect here is so much stronger than other cities. So what I mean by snowball effect is how one decision can lead to one door opening, can lead to another opportunity, etc., etc. I think it moves so much more intensely and so much more fast here. It is super easy to meet people, and I will also say that people here are a lot more open-minded and willing to meet new people. So this could advance you in your business, in your side hustle, or just your social life or dating life. I would also say my favorite part about New York is the quality of the people here. I feel like I met a cool, interesting person on average once a day. Like someone that I genuinely want to be friends with, want to learn more about, want to connect with. This is just a city where all the cool, inspiring, creative, adventurous people who are doing cool shit gather. And plus being in a walkable city, I think that really helps with just the interactions of like you just happen to meet a lot more strangers here. It's also so nice to be right in the middle of the action. Like, if there is something cool going on in our country, it is probably happening in New York. It's also a really, really great city to get over your fear of being perceived, because trust me, everyone is too busy to be judging you, and no one gives a crap what you're wearing or if you're filming a video in public or whatever you're doing. Guaranteed, there's way more weirder, crazier people on the street doing whatever, and like nobody even bats an eye. So you can be whoever you want here. It's the best place to have a fresh start, to reinvent yourself, to experiment with your style. It's also the best city to be in if you have a lot of niche hobbies. If you have a really niche hobby, guaranteed there are at least 1,000 people in the city who do the same thing, and there's probably a weekly meetup for it too. Alright, let's get into the signs. There's this quote that I really love. I think it was Oprah who said it. Life whispers to you at first, but the longer you ignore it, it will soon turn into a scream. I think the universe was trying to tell me to leave New York for a while, but it took a lot of signs because I'm pretty stubborn. I didn't want to go, but the first sign that I got was from the people that I met. And the first person was actually the person that I dated when I first moved here. I had mentioned that my first week here, I went on my first date, and I ended up basically entering into a relationship with this guy, not official, because he knew that he was leaving within a few months because he's doing a digital nomad thing. So he's only spending a few months in each major city, and he's traveling here and there because his job is remote. And okay, I need to backtrack because that is actually what I have been wanting to do this entire time. Like that, I was never planning on moving to New York. Actually, a few years ago, I hated New York. I actually like made it almost a personality trait, like how much I didn't like New York and like I could never see myself living here. What I actually wanted to do was to be a digital nomad. I talked about this constantly because my job has been remote. I've had it for 3 years and I feel like you should just take advantage of this perk. So that's what I really, really wanted to do. But actually last minute before I was about to go off, something in my gut just told me that maybe I should try moving to New York first and just see what happens. Then I met this guy. We clicked right away and moved super, super fast. And as our relationship was getting serious, I almost said seriouser and seriouser. As our relationship got more and more serious, it became apparent that there were only 3 outcomes for us. He stops being a digital nomad and stays in New York with me. I leave New York and go travel with him, or we break up, which is actually the most likely and probable and smart decision. The anxiety of like this impending decision coming up was just a very, very confusing time. But like honestly, if you think about it, isn't it almost kind of perfect? Like he was actually the first person that I ever met who was doing the digital nomad thing. I have talked about it for years, but I've never actually met anyone in real life who's also doing it, probably because they don't stop by Chicago very often. But I'm a very flexible person, kind of go with the flow. Like I'm open to any opportunities that come along. So I was like actually down to go with him, but I know that's crazy. Okay, like I'm a hopeless romantic, but even I know that that would be crazy for both of us, either of us, to change our entire life trajectories for each other when we just met like 3 weeks ago. That was the first time that I had seriously considered leaving New York, even though it was like very clear that the city is perfect for me. And because of that, I ended up getting serious about making the most of my time here in New York. So I made a New York bucket list, and by today I have completed almost every single item on the list. Like there's not a single thing left in New York that I think that I need to do, and I feel very satisfied with my time here. So that is a really good thing that came out of that relationship. But after we broke up, the next person that I met after him was doing that. Like she was being a digital nomad with her partner, traveling around the States. New York was her first destination. I just met her at yoga class and we got lunch and we talked all about it. And she said something that really stuck with me. Who knows how much longer our companies are going to let us be remote? So we have to take advantage of it now. My entire industry has actually gone back to hybrid. So it's very lucky that my specific role at my specific company is still remote. And who knows if they're going to keep letting me be remote. And then from there on, then I caught up with Joanna and Amber, my 2 friends from college who are doing something similar or planning to very soon. Then I met Annie, and also her previous roommate is doing something similar, and then Amna. And it just felt like the universe kept putting people in my path who were doing the thing, like some version of quitting their job, traveling the world, being a digital nomad. And before this, I had literally never met a single person doing this, and suddenly left and right, it was popping up everywhere. The second sign I got was dun dun dun, my job. Remember how I just said that my industry has gone back to the hybrid mode, but my specific role is still remote? Well, one day, maybe like a month after I moved in, my boss just randomly stopped me in the hallway and it was like, have you been coming into the office? And I was like, no, I'm still remote status, I think. And he basically told me that I need to start adhering to the hybrid schedule because that's just the rule that they have for people who live in New York. Even though my entire team is remote, by the way. I don't even know who I'm coming to the office for. And I actually had decided that there's literally no amount of money that you could pay me to get me to start coming into the office. Remote work is so imperative to my quality of life that it's actually that big of a deal to me. I value freedom over anything. And at this point, like I'm already not feeling that hot about my corporate job. And if I were to start coming to the office, I would 100,000% start hating it. So this is actually a lose-lose for everybody. So there's like a lot of reasons why it doesn't make sense, and I can feel some of your judgment through the screen right now, okay? But this is just honestly how I feel. And absolutely no hate to my job. I have a really great job and I'm so grateful for it, but frankly it has absolutely nothing to do with me. Like the Venn diagram of Kelly's interests and things that I'm good at has absolutely no overlap with the things that I do in my job. And if I were to live in literally anywhere else in the world besides New York, I could stay remote. It's just a stupid rule that they have for New York employees. So I was like, oh, should I leave New York and keep the quality of life that I want? Or should I just tough it out and stay in New York where I am clearly meant to be? Within like 20 minutes of the conversation with my boss, I decided to go. I mean, I'd already been sort of thinking about it and it just kind of felt right. Like I actually didn't feel sad or dramatic. I didn't feel anything about it. It just felt natural. So I literally started looking at sublets. I started planning my digital nomad route. But then I was like, okay, maybe I'm being a little too rash right now. Let me give it some more time to think about it. Let me maybe try and negotiate with work and then we'll just see what happens. But that was the second little nudge that I got. The final sign was my apartment. I had signed a 3-month sublet when I first moved here, and it was coming to an end. I tried to resign, but that didn't work out. I tried apartment hunting with one of my roommates, and that also didn't work out. I probably sent out like 100 messages, and only 2 people even responded to me. And it became this close to signing a lease, and then it just fell through the cracks. The days kept passing, and more stuff was not working out. The rental market in the summer is super competitive. It just seemed like nothing was working out in my favor. So with less than 2 weeks left on my lease, and I know that is enough time to find an apartment in New York, like things move really fast here. But then that little voice in my head came back and was like, actually, maybe this could be a good opportunity to do the digital nomad thing. I mean, doing the digital nomad thing didn't sound bad, but was I about to start doing it when my lease ended in 10 days? Like, that would be kind of crazy. It just feels a little too soon. So I went to the park, I ate some chocolates to dig down deep and figure out what I wanted. Like, it was that serious. And spoiler alert, I decided to go. I think deep down I knew what I wanted. I was just really scared because it is a huge transition, but I decided that I'm gonna leave New York. I don't know exactly where I'm gonna go yet, but it's what I need to do. First of all, it's just a really natural breaking point with my lease ending. Plus, I'm at a point in my life when I have very few responsibilities. My job is remote. I have no partner, no pets, no kids. Plus, I'm starting to near the end of my 20s. I mean, I still have 4 years left, but still, I'm not saying that I couldn't travel after my 20s, but it just felt like now or never, and now couldn't be a more perfect time. And oh my gosh, I almost forgot to add, guess what happened right after this? That day in Central Park when I decided to leave, I decided to give myself 1 more month in New York to just tie up any loose ends, logistics, moving, say goodbye to my friends. And as I was leaving the park 1 hour later, I got a text and the perfect sublet just fell into my lap. So I just took that as one more added confirmation from the forces that be that I was making the right decision. So at this point, I already started to have a lot of external forces starting to push me, but none of them were really deal breakers. They were just hints. But while this was all happening, I had just as many signs to stay in New York too. Things were really picking up for me here. I had so many opportunities flying at me more than ever before. I had met some of my closest friends. I booked my first performance gig. I met my flow community. I met these 2 guys in a bar and we started a podcast. My sound healing side business was taking off. Every single event was selling out. It was doing really well. I got offered a job teaching yoga. So I finally got my foot in the door with teaching, which actually was a reason why I almost didn't move to New York. I was about to pivot into the fitness industry back in Chicago, but I ended up giving that up in order to move to New York. But I can get into that story for another time. The point is, I finally got an opportunity to start teaching, and life was just starting to get good. But it was the whisper, that damn whisper. That whisper that grows into a scream. And you know how I know I made the right decision? It's because the scream finally stopped. Sometimes I like to think about listening to your intuition almost like a compass, like you're playing hot and cold. You go into one direction, and if it feels right, then you keep going. If suddenly everything in your body feels wrong, that scream in your head starts, then maybe you turn this way, and then it gets a little quieter. You turn a little more this way, and it gets a little quieter. Over the past few years, I have made an intentional decision to listen to my gut more and make more decisions just based on my intuition, and it has been a world of a difference. Not only is making decisions much easier and faster, it does help me eliminate some of the overthinking, but don't get me wrong, I overthink this decision a lot. And I also do want to make a point here. How I came to this decision was from me listening to my gut, but also listening to signs from the universe, which might seem like that's 2 completely different things, like external things and then internal feelings, but I actually see them as the same thing. Like the signs from the universe, I think it depends on how you interpret them. A different me might have taken those things as a sign that I need to get a new roommate or live in a different neighborhood or switch jobs or just take my career more seriously and be more of an office worker. I don't know. But I took those signs as a sign to leave because I had already had this yearning deep down of the digital nomad thing, which I've always wanted to do. I like to think of it as similar to tarot cards, if you're familiar. Tarot cards are not necessarily supposed to just tell you your future. It unlocks your intuition. So seeing these cards and getting a message can help you see a problem in a different way, and then maybe spark something in you that allows you to make a better decision and realize what you actually want deep down. So I actually see the signs from the universe and listening to your gut as all the same thing. It's all in the same realm. And don't get me wrong, up until this very day, I have still felt confusion of, should I really go? Am I making the right decision? I have edited my plan a million times, and eventually I did come into a plan that felt right, and I just locked everything in. I booked like 10 flights all at once, and we're gonna go. I actually agonized this much about my decision to move to New York in the first place as I did the decision to leave New York. And the truth is, there is no such thing as a right decision. I'm certain that I would still be really happy right now if I was living in Chicago, and I'm sure I would still be really happy if I stayed in New York. But what it comes down to is getting really clear on your values, and I know as I've gotten older that the 2 main things that I value are freedom and experience. So it makes sense why I'd want to be a free bird and just explore the world, at least for a little bit. And the thing about decisions is it's not that if you make the right one, then suddenly life will be easy. It's the act of choosing one path and then committing to it and then just figuring it out from there. You make the best of what you choose, and it's not going to be easy either way. And also, I've just kind of accepted that I think being in your 20s is just being in a constant state of confusion. I know that one day when I'm older, I'm going to look back and think back to the time when I was so free and had so many options that I could do literally anything that I wanted, that it was so hard for me to decide. And I'm going to look back at my younger self and thank her for doing the brave thing and seeking adventure and making the most of it. I do believe in general that if you are ever stuck between staying and going, you should go. New York is always going to be here, but my youth isn't. I'm still so sad to be leaving New York. Honestly, it feels so soon, and I'm just not ready. I was sobbing in therapy earlier today because I'm just gonna miss my friends so much. I have been in New York for 152 days. I'm coming out of this thing a completely new person, and I hope I come out of this next adventure even more transformed. I will be documenting my entire process and the journeys that I go on in this nomad era of my life. I'm so excited. I'm also so sad to be leaving. I have a lot of emotions today and this week and this whole month, actually. It's so funny because I spent years agonizing if I should move out of Chicago, and then when I finally did, I was like, yes, I can finally settle down and start my life here. And now here I am 5 months later picking it up all over again. I clearly don't know what's going on, and I've always struggled with where I belong in life. I feel like I've always kind of flit from place to place. I jump from hobby to hobby. I want to try out a million different careers. I just want to do everything, and I'm even kind of a social butterfly. I don't know. I guess maybe that's why I have this underlying belief that nothing good in life is permanent and you have to be ready for change. Sounds kind of sad, but I mean, I guess it's true. And I guess it's helped me to not get too attached to the good things in my life. So I guess that's it. So here's to the new journey. Here's to adventure. Here's to listening to your inner guide and the signs from the universe. And here's to leaving when things were just about to get good.
I'm so scared of getting what I want. I'm so scared of seeing where it leads. I'm so scared of getting what I want. Scared that it's not really what I need. And I'm so scared I'm gonna fuck it up. Every night I'm sweating through the sheets. Oh, I'm so scared of getting what I want. Scared that it's not really what I need. It's not really what I need. It's not really what I need. So what is it that I need? So what is it that I need?
So now I'm sure you're wondering where I'm actually going. So if it wasn't clear by now, I'm gonna give the digital nomad thing a shot. In 2 days, I'm driving back home to the suburbs of Chicago to just drop off all my stuff, see my family. Over the course of the next 6 months, I will be hitting South America, Europe, and Asia. So if you have any recs for any of these countries, I will put them all here. Please let me know. I actually haven't planned that many of the activities that I'm gonna be doing yet, so all of those things are still up in the air. I have planned exactly all the tattoos I'm gonna get though. I have a whole tattoo artist tour planned. I'm gonna get a tattoo in every country, and I'm so freaking excited for it. So yes, I will be vlogging the entire thing. I'm going to be documenting all my adventures. I'm gonna be traveling solo for the majority of it, but yeah, this is happening. I'm so excited. I hope you subscribe and follow along, and if you enjoyed this video, give it a like. Like for Kelly's return to YouTube. This is by far the biggest journey I've ever embarked on, the biggest risk I've ever taken in my life. I'm just really proud of myself, honestly. So I hope it goes well, and I'll see you out there.